Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Samri.
And welcome to the
Chopsticks and Fork, please
podcast. So yeah, we're doing a little run through of our feelings and thoughts on season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, we just we finished the whole watching it today
Yeah.
after your meeting.
Yeah, it was you wanted us to watch it at midnight.
Yeah.
I was not having it.
Yeah. You had judo.
Yeah, or I did a lot of exercising and I'm getting old.
You don't have to say it that way.
Yes, I mean once
You did 2 hours of judo and that's tough.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna stay up until past midnight.
Yeah.
Too, for it doesn't usually suit well for me.
Oh.
I was like, I'll just watch it later.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Cause it's important to get your sleep.
Yep.
No matter how old you are.
Yep.
Yep.
Back in the day, I could go with less hours of sleep.
You didn't do 2 hours of judo though.
Yeah. You can do something else,
You think you could have done 2 hours of sleep?
I could have done it when I was younger.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm built different.
So that's...
All right, but back to Star Trek Picard. Yeah, this is the season of Star Trek Picard.
The last generation.
Where they got all the members of TNG in it.
Yeah, the main cast.
Yeah, and I feel like this is what I wanted Star Trek Picard to be, season 1.
Yeah, instead of
I did not like Picard seasons 1 and 2. I forced myself to get through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only watched it because you wanted to watch it.
Oh,
for seasons 1 and 2.
You already knew you were not gonna enjoy watching it?
Yeah, and when I was watching through, I'm like, man, I feel like dropping. I was like, I kind of know what's gonna happen. You know, it's not. I'm like, it doesn't feel like Star Trek. You know,
it feels more like punk rock, or no, sorry, cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk, not a little bit, I guess, but
right?
Not even. There's cyberpunk's very built on dystopia. Well, Star Trek is built on utopia, right? But it's just they just change a lot of things. I don't mind watching dark, sci-fi, right? But with Star Trek, I watch Star Trek for different reasons.
What do you watch it for?
A little bit more hopeful attitude.
Family centered.
Not even family centered, just more hopeful. Hey, positive outlook for the future. Yeah, and overall, it just didn't feel like Star Trek, where I'm expecting spaceships and
Yeah, the impression I got of the first 2 seasons is they're trying to be more like Star Wars.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people there's the early phase of New Trek, right? You kind of saw this with the Star Trek movies. The new ones with the younger actors playing the TOS crew. Where that felt very much like Star Wars.
Oh, with the planets disappearing.
Yeah, and the thing is, not just that. The director James Abram, who directed the Star Trek movies, ended up directing Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
You did. The new Star Wars movies.
Oh, the one with the black guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like how you described it as the one with the black guy.
Well, I mean, it was.
Yeah, it'd be Star Wars 7, 8, 9, pretty much.
The one with the woman.
Yeah.
The black guy.
Yeah.
And what else? What was 9? 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9, yeah. Those are chronologically.
Oh, and the guy who turned dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that's how much you care about it, where you just like can't even like remember multiple details. I honestly don't care about the new Star Wars movies, anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't even watch the last one.
Oh, I can see the similarities between the Star Wars movies and the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
With like the planets getting destroyed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, Star Wars always had planet destroying like super weapons going on, right? But that's always been a Star Wars thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Star Trek was like, oh, let's discover new cultures and
we gotta save the galaxy from like planet destroying evil or something like that. You know. But Star Trek Picard, it just didn't have. Like they introduced new characters, of course.
Yeah.
And like some of them, some of them grow on you. But I felt like the fact that like only out of the old crew of all the characters in Star Trek Picard seasons 1 and 2, the only character that showed up in season 3 was Raffi.
Yeah.
And like 7, I guess 7 and 9 is a legacy character, but it's like the characters introduced in 1 and 2. Only one who appeared was Raffi.
Yeah.
I
wonder why.
Well, I think it's just they want to put more focus and emphasis on the TNG crew.
Yeah, because I just got an impression when you were talking about like how you didn't enjoy the first 2 seasons that Star Trek fans just want to stick with the original characters.
I mean, the thing is that when you have a show
That's
called...
not fair, though.
It's not fair, but when you have a show called Star Trek Picard, what do you expect?
I mean, yeah. Jean-Luc Picard and like his
the
friends.
Yeah. You want a continuation. And the thing is that the last thing fans got of that like crew was Star Trek Nemesis, which was not that great of a movie.
Oh, okay.
And it was not that great of like a closure to them. Because they had originally intended for there to be one more movie, but because Nemesis did so badly, they couldn't get greenlit for another one. For another movie. So it's kind of like everyone was just kind of disappointed with Nemesis. And Picard's like, oh, this is a continuation of that. But then it's not really a continuation of like, it didn't feel like a continuation of that.
Is that why Picard started off really dark because of Nemesis? Because Nemesis was dark?
No, I think it's just like at the time, because like Picard came out at the same time as around the same time as Discovery and stuff like that. And the first couple seasons of Discovery were also pretty dark as well. There was a time where, and if you look at the staff and who's producing Star Trek, the people who made Star Trek Discovery 1 and 2 are not the same as the people making Discovery seasons 3 and 4 and 5.
Oh.
Same thing with Picard.
It changes the tone.
It changes the tone.
Okay.
Different writers, stuff like that, and my friend had mentioned before, like in Star Trek Picard and like Discovery, there used to be like way too many producers involved in the show.
Oh.
So like a lot of people trying to get their hands on it and be like, oh, let's make this change or let's make that change,
Okay.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Like if you compare Strange New Worlds to Discovery season 1, they feel like they're made by they are made by completely different people. But it like the vibe, but they're all made by like Paramount and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like the feelings are like a lot different.
Yeah, because now that you mention it, Discovery's felt like it was being jerked around, like the storyline.
Yeah.
Like, to Kuvma, son of none.
The Discovery season 1 and season 2 were rough.
Yeah.
I couldn't really. It is like one of those things where like, oh, I can't really take this seriously.
I mean, like whenever I watch Star Trek, I try to find things that I like about it and stick with it instead of like, oh, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
But different styles of watching, but like that it makes sense. I can see how the storylines changed so dramatically. Like it was a good turn, but like the whole mirror universe, or what is it? The turn
universe,
turn kind of thing.
Yeah,
like I feel like okay, they like switched it up really fast, and then they went to the future.
Like
that's
Michael is Michael.
yeah. Michael, the angel.
Michael is a biblical reference to Michael. I was like, oh my god.
I feel like I should watch it again. The whole Discovery. You don't have to watch it with me.
Yeah, I like seasons 3 and 4. Though.
Oh, okay.
Seasons 3 and 4 like had a different direction. I felt
because it's in the future.
Yeah, it's in the future. Like like they're not constrained by like.
Oh, spoiler alert!
Yeah.
I feel like we've spoiled.
Yeah, we're spoiling New Trek for everyone.
Yeah.
But Discovery seasons 3 and 4 is like okay, they don't have to. They're not constrained by like what's gonna happen in TOS.
Yeah.
They're going to they're going in new directions. They're in a different like time period completely, and they can do whatever, right?
That's
and
true.
then it kind of got less like dark too, like in terms of just like
I mean, I thought it was going to be really dark because of all the exploded.
Yeah, like the world's like doomed. But overall, like the idea of like what they were doing was very hopeful, right? They're trying to give hope to the galaxy that has no hope, right? So it's a different vibe. It's a different vibe. It had more hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah. There's a little bit like, and they dialed back the whole because in seasons 1 and 2. Definitely felt like they're like Michael is like the chosen one. Michael like is the one who saves the world. Universe. In seasons 3 and 4, they dialed that back. She's merely a part of like the group of people who are trying to save the universe. Like in Discovery has the thing of like every season they have to save the universe somehow.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Which isn't necessarily Star Trek, really.
I mean,
like
Picard is like
Picard's like that too, but I mean most people like kind of lump new Star Trek in its like own thing, right? Where like every season has to be like, oh, they saved the universe, right? Like compared to like old Trek, they didn't necessarily like save the universe like every season, right?
Yeah,
there was stuff going on. And it's like kind of like an ever-growing situation, I guess like episodic nature versus serialized, In serialized, you kind of have to go through a whole thing. But even like Deep Space Nine, which was serialized, wasn't a whole thing of just save the universe, right?
I mean, there's aspects of Save the Universe in all of the Trek.
Yeah, there's like things
series.
Of like, oh, this is a big moment, right?
Yeah.
This is a big moment, but
the
like...
Minion War or like... The Voyager was like,
but it's definitely more like politics heavy. Like the Save the Universe is more like politics heavy. Like like the Klingon threat in like TOS, right? Is very much like this is a different culture. We got like we're going to war, but we also have to like talk things politically, right? Same thing with the Dominion War, right? There's like a whole other culture here, like in like for example like Star Trek Discovery is just like math aliens.
Oh yeah. You enjoyed that?
Oh, I thought it was cute enough. I know a bunch of people were like kind of hokey, but like
I think it was pretty like mind bending, kind of cool.
Okay, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
And there's also season 3 had the whole plot twist of a little kid like being the center of like the entire galaxy being destroyed.
That's true.
It
was kind of like a big letdown.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was like
it was a really big letdown. I was like, okay, it was like a kid's temper tantrum, right?
Yeah.
But like but despite all that, like there are parts of Discovery I really like. Like Saru is like a great character. I really liked Saru's character.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then so let's going back to Star Trek Picard because we got like we got side tangent there. So Star Trek Picard, Picard is on his great vineyard, you know, as you do, because it is actually.
Are you talking about the third season?
Yeah, 30 seasons. I mean, like they all like people make the joke that like Star Trek Picard is an excuse for what's his name. Patrick Stewart to show off his wine vineyard.
Yeah.
He's
a product
an
placement.
executive producer on the show.
Oh, okay. That
He's
makes sense.
yeah, so it's in like a way for him to show off his dog.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yeah. Apparently he does like nonprofit work with against cruelty to dogs.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, like Patrick Stewart or Jean-Luc Picard is like, kind of starts off like pretty chill, all things considering. And then like things escalate. He gets a message from Beverly Crusher. Yeah. Who is like trust no one. Also, man, Beverly got like a real cool like glow up in this like in Star Trek Picard season 3. Yeah. Where in like in TNG she's kind of like a doctor. She's a doctor. She doesn't really get to do much. She has like a few episode central around her. But the last impression I got of like the last Beverly episode that I remember at the top of my head that happened like the latest that's more fresh to me is the one where like there was the ghosts that were possessing the woman in her bloodline. Yeah. It's like, what is this? Yeah. So the fact that she gets to be kind of cool, like she's left Starfleet and has gone like on adventures on her own. Yeah. And is a bit more hardened. Yeah. That's cool.
She travels. She's the independent single mom.
Yeah, independent single mom.
Makes it on her own.
Yeah, you find out that like she gave birth to Picard's son.
And the reason why she didn't tell Picard that he had a son was because she didn't want to like put her son in danger.
Yeah, because I mean, like I don't blame Beverly for that at all.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because it's like, like what things like go after Picard all the time. Yeah. Right? And like, your children can be your weakness too, right?
Yeah,
People will go after your children and your loved ones to get to you.
Yeah.
So there's that. So Picard goes to Riker and Riker's like, I'll help you. Because Riker is always like that. Riker's always like, yeah, I'll help you out. Yeah. And they go
have a really strong bromance. Yeah.
They go to the Titan, which was Riker's old ship.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, oh, we're doing a surprise inspection.
But they wanted to just take over.
Yeah, they just wanted to use, take over the ship and And it's really funny because they introduced the character Captain Shaw. And I think he was like one of my favorite parts of this.
You liked the character?
Yeah, I liked the character because he kind of like made fun of a lot of like what we love in TNG, but like did it in a like in a fun way rather than like insulting it.
Oh, okay.
Like, like he felt like, oh man, you guys just went on like crazy wild adventures and like ignored protocol and like ignored the prime directive whenever convenient, which is true.
Yeah. And his thing was he doesn't like how they put the crew at risk.
Yeah. Like he was very reasonable. Like I never like thought of him as like too much getting in the way of things. I thought of him as being very reasonable in terms of like these admirals think they're gonna like, because remember in TNG or any of the old Star Trek shows where like an admiral would visit and like use their power to like get their way around the ship, right? And the whole episode was like them trying to like fight back against that.
That's
it was kind of like that, except our favorite characters we're following are the admirals this time around, right?
Makes sense. Yeah. And the admirals are always like
corrupt.
Yeah. Nefarious reasons.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
they're like how many admirals in Starfleet have been like hyper corrupt and like up to no good.
Yeah, or they have like little aliens in them.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then they also Seven of Nine is also on the ship, and Shaw and her have this like tenuous relationship where like he's kind of like calling her by Hanson,
Yeah.
which is her human name, which she does not really like being called Hanson, right? Like
Yeah.
she prefers Seven of Nine. That's how she identifies with. But like you can kind of see where Shaw's coming from, or calling her Hanson, because he's trying to be like, oh, you're still human. You're human.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not
and then
Borg.
you find out why he
Yeah,
doesn't like the
he
Borg.
doesn't like the Borg. Yeah, he has good reasons to like not like the Borg. And it's really funny because when they said he's like, oh, he didn't like the Borg, I'm like, it's probably Wolf 359.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the reason why most people don't like the Borg in Starfleet, right? In universe, right?
So what you just mentioned is
Yeah.
when Picard gets taken over by the Borg,
Yeah,
and he attacks Starfleet.
Yeah, in TNG where he gets taken over and is Locutus. And for example, Ben Sisko in Deep Space Nine had a grudge against Picard in season 1 because his wife died in Battle Wolf 359. And so like when Shaw was like, oh, I don't like the Borg and I don't like you, Picard, you know, kind of antagonistic of Picard, I was like, it's probably Wolf 359. Because that's like the thing where like that would be a thing where a Starfleet member would have a grudge against like Picard. Right.
Yeah, and for me in TNG, they didn't really address the fact that
He became a Borg.
he became a Borg and killed a lot of Starfleet.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like, oh yeah, he's back to being human.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean
go,
that was like
yeah.
the nature of Star Trek in
Yeah,
the
the
old days.
episodic thing.
The episodic nature.
Yeah.
That's like the downside of the episodic nature of things, where you can't have things last too long, because you have to be able to come to the next week's episode and like understand what's going on.
True. Yeah.
And the way that it was sent back then too, Star Trek wasn't necessarily on a single channel.
Oh, okay.
It was on multiple channels. So
Different channels had rights to it.
yeah, so different channels had different episodes. That's actually what
Oh,
made...
really?
Yeah.
Oh, they wouldn't like follow one
No.
episode after the other.
No.
Oh, okay.
That's actually the reason why like Deep Space Nine didn't do as well as TNG back in the day. But like it does well really now because it actually like ages a little bit better because of like the way we watch episodes now with like on demand stuff. Because back then it was a pain to watch Deep Space Nine.
Oh, because you have
Because
to
like
record
you
it.
have to
or-
record, yeah. Because the reason why like the writer said, "Oh, we want to try serialization," is because DVR just started to come out. Right?
Okay,
You know, like
okay.
do you remember TiVo? Whereas like it let you record television shows,
Yeah.
right? So people are like, "Oh, well, there's TiVo now, right?" So
Mm-hmm.
like maybe people will be able to kind of like watch these episodes, right?
Mm.
But they still had like the like branching, like descending the episodes to like multiple like television networks. So at the time it was hard to like watch. It was hard to like watch Deep Space Nine.
Interesting.
But yeah, and so now we can watch it all on like on a single like watch and sit through.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all the episodes in order.
Yeah,
So it makes a lot more sense.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so they go and then like there's a lot of stuff happens. You get to see like Worf come back and he's like this is like chill Zen Mushu master now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like he's like I like the changes that they made to a lot of these characters. You know, they're still them, but you can tell that like they've gone through maybe a like
They've grown. Like
they've grown.
Yeah,
They've
not.
grown.
They've gotten older, and they keep mentioning.
Like they're older.
they got
they've
older,
changed,
too.
Yeah, they've changed. They've had
Yeah.
different life experiences. Let's see, like if Worf has changed a lot. Like he's more chill. And laid back. Like he's like, oh, I'm an old man now. He's like kind of like there's someone who's like really strict and like kind of strict before in his youth, and then like he grows up. He's like, yeah, I'm just more chill now.
Yeah. He used to be more religious and like he wanted to stick with his cultural roots.
Yeah.
But now he's like, I practice this
Yeah.
from this culture and then this from this.
Yeah.
He appreciates different cultures.
Yeah. And that's something that you've always seen like Worf kind of slowly open up to, like in the other episodes, like more and more.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean, he did like essentially he did Tai Chi in like in TNG, right? He would teach people like Tai Chi.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Okay.
And yeah, he's like he kind of like teaches Raffi too, and have a fun relationship.
He was her handler.
Yeah.
Like,
and like in terms of like Starfleet's like intelligence officers.
yeah, but which is not the same as Section 31.
Yeah, Section 31. Yeah.
It's different.
It's different. It's like CIA versus like secret or hidden shadow organization.
Yeah. So basically they take over the ship, and Shaw and Picard had kind of a showdown.
Yeah, like there was a really good scene of like they weren't their ship hadn't been taken over yet. It was more of like they were being attacked, and like they were like hiding, and like Picard was having like a one-on-one moment with like his son. And then it's like some other people like also sat in too, right?
They were being attacked by Vadic,
right?
Who is a changeling.
Yeah.
And then they get sucked into this like whatever it is, a big dark
nebula.
Nebula that like
it's always a nebula.
pumps energy, and
Yeah.
then they use the energy to like. So they used the nebula as being like an allegory for pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like when the contractions get more intense, it means someone's about to give birth.
Okay.
Anyways, I thought it was a cool thing
I didn't know
that Beverly noticed. She was
Yeah.
like, it's like labor.
Okay.
So let's just, use that energy to shoot out. But anyway, so also Troy comes into the picture as well because
they kidnap Troy.
Yeah, the
And then-
changelings bring her.
Yeah, and then like it's like this whole scene of like Riker was like being taken. You think I'm gonna portray my crew, my crew, and they're like, you will for her, and they show Troy, and they showed more of like their relationship, which like honestly was like pretty nice, right?
Yeah, why
why they're a couple,
yeah.
right?
No, like why they were having marital issues.
Yeah, they're like having they're having like bumps in their relationship, and they're going through they're going through like their grieving too, which was like only touched on in the earlier seasons of Picard, right?
Yeah, it was very vague for me. I was like, what's going on? Like something about a son they lost.
Yeah, they lost a son.
But they did not go into it.
Yeah, they didn't go into it. So this let them like go into it. And, like, oh yeah, like they're like, having kind of like some issues going on.
Yeah, because she has powers to read people's minds.
Well, not minds, but more like their emotions. It's like it's like you are feeling this emotion rather than you're thinking this. It's a little bit different. That's always been her ability. It isn't like reading.
To feel intentions.
Yeah, to feel their emotions rather than like read their thoughts. It's like it sounds similar. It sounds similar, but like it's a little bit different. So she feels that Riker is grieving,
and she tries to
remove that.
Yeah.
She but Riker doesn't like that because it's like his way of like remembering. So it's kind of like
you need to grieve.
You can't
grieve. Just medicate your pain.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the message they were trying to give. And then once they got out of the nebula, they were still fighting Vatic. She ends up taking over the ship.
Yeah, and then you also learn that like Starfleet's like hyper compromised with changelings everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're like taking like you don't know who's a changeling, who's not a changeling.
They contact Tuvok.
That was a good cameo where like they like, and that scene kind of implies that like this wasn't the first person that they contacted. That like they probably contacted like quite a few people before Tuvok. And like got the same thing of like, oh, they're also a changeling.
Yeah.
You know?
And they find out who is not real.
Yeah.
By like talking about something personal.
Yeah.
Like that happened before the changelings took over.
Or like something that like they didn't really say, like, you know, like nothing that was like public in like an interview, but like something like very personal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I like how a lot of it, like, throughout the series, the joke is, like, no one likes Picard's wine. Everyone, like, has something to say against Picard's wine. Like, Shaw was like, oh, I'm more of a Scotch person myself. And then, like, Picard, when he's talking to Geordi, is like, Geordi's like, say something that only we know. And then Geordi's like, on your anniversary or something like that, I gave you a bottle of my wine, but you have no taste. And he said it was too dry.
And then Geordi's like...
Okay, yeah. Geordi is great. Geordi was like my favorite part of this season of Picard because like his facial reactions.
Yeah.
He's like... He's like definitely matured over time. He's like he has his family too, and he's not like willing to go with them initially too because he's like I have to protect my family, right? I can't just go on like the adventure anymore.
Because he takes care of the museum.
Yeah, he takes care of the museum, which is a much safer position. Bashir, right?
It's pretty comfortable and like really chill. Like,
yeah, exactly. He gets
that's what I would want to do.
He gets to do what he likes, which is like fix up spaceships, you know, stuff
it's
like
like
that.
being a librarian. I love the library.
And like, oh, and then like he has his daughter working with him, and then he also has another daughter who's a pilot. And it's like a really cool thing because Geordi in season 1 of TNG was not an engineer; he was actually the pilot.
Oh.
He like worked on the bridge. It's like very.
Then it switched over.
And then he switched over. Like he changed jobs, and it's kind of like it's more like like he prefers doing engineering.
He's better at it.
Yeah. Because
they wanted to bring in Wesley. I think that's why they.
They had Wesley, job. But like Wesley became like the pilot. Wesley became the pilot, and they made Geordi the chief engineer. And for Geordi, that was like a promotion. Right. And they always said like, oh, he preferred engineering, but like his daughter being more into like piloting was like kind of like contention between the two, right?
Yeah.
And Geordi has like a bunch of like emotional moments where you see like him like act
with him and Data.
Yeah, him and Data. Data returns with like lore. Brent Steiner had a lot of fun acting in this one because. Essentially, they find a new Data that was made by Sung's descendant, who was in Star Trek season 1, Picard season 1.
Lore, you mean?
No. Sung, the guy who built.
No, but like he built Lore.
He didn't build Lore specifically. He rebuilt Data's new body. And put in the elements of Lore, Data, and like BB-8 in his own person inside the body itself.
Oh, in the new.
Robot. In the new robot body.
So that the new robot becomes more human.
Yeah, so that the new one will become more human because Lore was always the more emotional one. Lore had emotions, right?
But he was depicted as evil.
Yeah, he's super evil though. And they have this whole thing of like, like and Jordy's like doesn't want like there's like a partition that like stops like lore from taking over Data and vice versa. And Jordy doesn't want to let go of that because he's like worried that like Data will be lost forever. Right? And you see him like really fearful of lore too. Like I just remember like the trailer just being Jordy be like, lore. And I was like, oh. And then when Brent Steiner is acting out Data and lore, where he's going from Data and immediately to lore in like the span of like not even a single sentence, it's so cool to see, right? Like it makes sense like in world, but then we imagine like someone who has to act that like in like a drop in fly. That's really skillful. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, the actor admitted that it was tough.
Yeah.
But enjoyable.
Yeah.
For him.
And they have this moment where like, you know, Data's giving like all of like giving Lore all of his own personal like treasured memories and stuff like that, and Lore's like, oh yeah, this is a nice trophy, right? And then like at the end it's like, oh, you accepted all of me. You know? And I was like, oh, that was a good like they're good moments.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, then Brent Steiner can play Data with emotions.
Yeah, and he can use contractions.
He can use contractions, you know. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, he gets to be Data, except a little bit more interesting, you know. With,
and
like,
he
more
visits
emotions.
Troy to have therapy sessions.
Therapy sessions at the end, yeah.
That run over, like, an hour.
But overall, like, Picard was a lot of fun. And it is sad because I feel like, yeah, like, this was a good send-off. And, like, the last scene where they're playing poker is like, oh, that's a good scene to end off on, right? That's how they ended the TNG TV show.
Yeah.
Which was them playing poker, like all together, and I was like, oh, okay, that's good, you know.
And then Q comes back.
Q comes back, maybe. Yeah, Q's back.
I was so excited about the Borg coming back.
Yeah.
Were you like, oh, she likes the Borg?
You like the Borg. Why do you like the Borg so much?
I think the Borg represents the dark feminine.
Yeah.
And I can see how all the things that people fear, like spiders and snakes and the darkness, and women being in power, that's the Borg.
Yeah.
Like women controlling men's minds, right? Because like it's only 7 of 9 that I've seen as a female Borg.
Yeah.
But all the Borgs I've seen, like the little minion soldiers, they've all been men.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. I can imagine them being more just like neutral, all like neutral. But yeah, I guess I know I see your point.
Yeah, I think that's like the psychological fear that is put in, like, because we live in a patriarchal society, and even if we don't admit it, that's just like we prefer men to be in power, and when women are more assertive and in power, I think it's very nerve-wracking for us.
It's really funny because I think it's always interesting because like there's always that, like, I think in Star Trek Generations, I think it was Generations, where they had the Borg Queen who had like a lot of sexual energy behind her. Like she was the one that like gave like Data some skin. It's like, oh, do you want to touch? I'm gonna touch this. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, she like dressed sexily too.
Yeah.
But the Borg here, she didn't have boobs. Like you can see her ribs.
The Borg here was actually the one that Catherine Janeway fought. When like when Janeway was coming back in the last encounter, and they went through the gate. Janeway used the Borg gateway to return to the Sol system, and that was the Borg Queen that like Janeway was fighting, and the one where future Janeway like exploded the bomb So that Borg Queen got obliterated by Janeway.
And so the Borg Queen that got blown up,
Yeah.
she came back.
Yeah, she
through
survived.
like feeding on the carcass of Borgs.
Yeah, pretty much like salvaging parts and stuff like that, and like essentially using other Borg to like stay alive. As long as they can, until like there's like, because normally there's like a ton of Borg. Borg Q. And in this one there's like only like a couple. Like only a couple are like functional.
Yeah, like there are some Borgs that they show where they're just skeleton.
Yeah. Because like for me, I was kind of hoping it wasn't the Borg, because the Borg were such a big deal in season 2. So I was thinking, it's like maybe it's a different one, because like
you thought it was
like because the Borg are a big deal in season 1 and season 2, and I was like, maybe they'll change things up for season 3. Right? It was like, oh, okay, it's another Borg. More Borg.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because
the Borg are good villains.
The son, Jack, he's the center of this season, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like they're like setting things up for a spin-off where 7 of 9, Raffi and him are like on the new ship.
With Q.
Yeah, with Q.
Because they
show like new Enterprise, right? Like, it's like, okay, that's gonna be the new show that they're working on. And like we have like all the members of like the bridge, where like these characters have too unique of designs to be like used once.
I think it makes sense because 7 of 9 was trying to say her line of like saying engaged or
like the launch off. The launch off thing, and they didn't show it, so it's like, okay, they're still workshopping things in the writer's room. I think that was better.
It's like a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think it was better to do it that way. Because if it's like super lame, and then you're like, oh. But like there's probably gonna be a new season. This is the last season of Star Trek Picard. Yeah. I think that's good to end it off. Like, good to end it off here. Get some new blood. We're gonna have Strange New World season 2 coming up in June. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
In like less than 2 months.
Yeah, and overall, like, it's been fun going on this Star Trek journey with you. Like, for those of you who do not know, like, one thing that was like early on in our relationship is like, let's watch Star Trek TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager.
Yeah.
Like
you're the one who introduced me to Star Trek.
Yeah, I introduced it to you. But like the thing is I never actually watched all of Star Trek. And Star Trek season 1 was like rough to get through. I couldn't even get past season 1 by myself. I'm like, I should really watch Star Trek, but I don't want to watch it on my own.
Oh, okay.
And then you told me you like sci-fi. And I was like, have you watched Star Trek? Because that sounds like a thing you would like, apparently.
Like, I've watched the movies.
Yeah, the not like the modern like the movies, but that's not like people argue that's not very Star Trek. It's more Star Wars than Star Trek, right?
Yeah. It's more fancy and younger actors, fancier,
sex,
very
sexy.
much sex energy.
Yeah. Hot, young, attractive people do.
I mean, it's movie, so they have to like have that element.
There are people who are like, oh, why didn't they get William Shatner to play the younger version?
Oh my gosh, no! He's too old.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, Shatner. Yeah, no. I mean, because like Picard, he's old, but I think he does it well.
He does it well. Like, he's like, because I feel like Shatner always wants to be portrayed as being super strong and like stuff like that.
But then Picard embraced the whole
embraces old like thing. He is old, right? Picard started the show being old.
Yeah.
Right?
And he talks about like, or like he doesn't talk about it, but like it's a running theme throughout the whole seasons is about like, oh, we've been through stuff
Yeah.
and we gained wisdom through it.
Yeah.
You know, versus the younger folks, they can learn a thing or two from us kind of thing.
But like we can let the younger folk do the crazy adventure stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And they were okay with like teaching the younger generation.
Yeah.
And like bringing forth and like interacting with them, because I feel it's a thing with like different cultures and different generations where the older generation has a hard time passing the baton.
Yeah. And I feel like the baton was passed to Jack pretty well, actually. Like I think it was a good like the new Enterprise going on a new adventure, baton passed to the new generation.
So Jack and if there's a new show with Seven of Nine, Raffi, Jack
and all the other members of the Enterprise bridge,
because the Jack and
Geordie's daughter
have like a romantic thing.
Like, there's like some tension. It wasn't perfect, right? There's like things where she was kind of creeped out by Jack.
She's like, what is he doing?
Yeah. I like that. I was like, good. I'm like, okay. Because it's like, oh, there's something there, but it's not working out the greatest, which is like fun, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to see that. You don't want to see like the relationship happen like right away, right?
And it's part of the whole Picard wanted to, and like the whole cast wanted to make things more gray instead of just like being utopian.
Yeah. I mean, which is like, you know, they talked about like, you know, like there needs to be conflict. Right?
Conflict is okay. You don't need to.
You need conflict, but you like, and it is on. They had so many moments of fan service.
Oh yeah.
In this one, where they're like you know, they're in the museum, and then 7 of 9 brings up the Voyager.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh, my heart.
She
talks about the Voyager,
her family, her chosen family.
Yeah, I was like, oh. I'm sad that we didn't get to see like an older Janeway.
Yeah, I was nice. Like expecting Ben Sisko to come back.
Nah,
I would flip it.
I said that was like always for me. That was like the thing that I want to happen, but like I know will never happen. Because like Ben Sisko hasn't like James Avery has not come back for like anything. Like he stopped acting. He stopped acting, right? And I think when they had like the Deep Space Nine like documentary where they had was like, oh, here's the Ben Sisko thing. All he did was like play piano.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, I just don't want to play piano right now. I don't want to talk.
He didn't talk.
He didn't really talk about Star Trek or anything like that.
Oh.
He's just like, oh yeah, this is my piano.
Oh okay. I mean, I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
like,
I'm happy
that's
for him.
like
I think
chill and peaceful.
Yeah, but I think like it would take a lot. I feel like to get him back. But I think Jake, the actor for Jake, because I always feel like the engagement is like how much do the actors like engage with like the community, like the Star Trek community, like the fan base. And I'm like, oh, I don't imagine James Avery doing it because he doesn't really do anything for the fans. Right, he doesn't give a shit. But
he's not a social person.
Yeah, but I imagine Jake's actor coming back in some way or another. Because like he like pops up in conventions all the time. I would imagine Bashir having a cameo.
Oh, okay.
You know, because Bashir and like Garrick's actor always do stuff before Star Trek conventions.
They would read fan.
Yeah, and also like Janeway. Janeway always comes back to conventions too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like she and Janeway she's the voice of Janeway in Prodigy, which we still haven't watched through yet.
We started.
but it's like too
But
much.
the kid was too annoying.
Yeah,
It is a kid's show.
It is a kid's show. It is a kid's show.
I'm like,
and
God,
I imagine him having character growth throughout the series, but yeah, it's like kind of grating, and it's a kid's show.
Yeah.
But I did see like clips of like Janeway not like a hologram appearing. So like they do end up meeting real Janeway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is like, it gets to be younger Janeway. Or not like, it gets to be Janeway that we saw from Voyager because it's an animated show.
Okay.
But like I wanted to see like older Admiral Janeway. That would have been cool to see. Like I want to see her like punch out the War Queen again.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else we're missing? Beverly was cool. I was like thinking too, because we've had the conversation of like if we have a daughter, which Star Trek character do we name our daughter after? And we're like, okay, like there's Janeway, there's Catherine, there's Kira, maybe Dax, and then
7 of 9.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, does it really even matter? Or, like you said something like, oh, it really doesn't matter which one we pick, and I was like, what would you want us to name our kid, Beverly or Deanna? And then you're like, you like paused for a second, you're like, yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
But well, Beverly was cool in this season.
That's true. And I mean, I think both women were able to redeem their characters.
It wasn't like the actresses themselves did anything wrong. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like
but
the writers gave them like the characters like a lot.
The changing of times.
Yeah, like they're cool.
Yeah, they're more complex. They're not just a sex figure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like whenever there's a, oh my gosh, there were so many episodes where I was just cringing because of Troy would be a victim of like some
Star Trek
creepy alien.
And the thing is we ended like TNG ended with like Troy being like creeped on by like creepy clone Picard.
Really?
Yeah, the one where she got essentially she essentially got raped like telepathically.
Oh, by Picard?
By Picard's clone, who was a teenager.
What? I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's like one of like the famous things of why people really hate Nemesis.
Oh, his clone. Oh, yeah, I forgot that. Okay.
Yeah, like you wipe out the bad parts of Star Trek really easily.
I guess I suppress it in my subconscious.
So that was like and that was also one where like they killed off Data. They killed off Data, and like I think the intention was we'll have another movie to wrap up some loose ends.
Oh, okay.
But they never got that because Nemesis did really badly.
Because it was too dark.
Too dark, or like it's just like wow, it's completely unnecessary, right? It's like, geez.
I'm like, why Picard though? Why would they clone him? Like, look, I feel like Star Trek is obsessed with Picard.
They are
too much.
Yeah.
Did I say some blasphemous thing?
Maybe. Like Star Trek the show or Star Trek the universe?
The show.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the universe has like other characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Discovery and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many things where it's like, okay, Picard has 2 sons, right? No. He has 1 son.
Just the one. I was like, what are you talking about?
Sorry. Wesley is not his son.
Wesley is not his son.
He's his adoptive son.
That's fan canon. That's fan theory.
Oh.
But it's fan theory. It hasn't been confirmed or anything like that.
I mean,
I think I would just like to say that Beverly like Wesley is not Picard's son, even though like people are like, is he though?
He might be.
Yeah, but I like to think of it as like, no, it's just like his friends, like because his friend, he was friends with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to imagine it's like, oh yeah, like. Treat him
Yeah,
well.
I guess at that, in the future, the kids would be able to know if they're related
Yeah,
to
exactly.
a guy.
Yeah, like DNA testing's probably really
Yes.
easy.
But yeah,
I kind of wanted to see Wesley come back, like as a character, like like at the end of Star Trek Picard.
oh yeah, I really enjoy watching The Ready Room.
Yeah, you do. You really like Will Wheaton's stuff.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton has a book actually. Is apparently really interesting. Kind of goes through like what he went through during like filming of Star Trek. How kind of like he was kind of like neglected at home.
Oh really?
And like how he felt more family bonds with like the crew, with like the cast of TNG and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting too. Like you also like his like troubles because like Wesley wasn't written the best, and like a lot of people didn't really like Wesley. And so when the actor tried to get roles, people were like, oh, you're the Wesley kid? No, we're not going to give you a role. Right? And that's not nothing of his fault.
Yeah.
Right? None of that's his fault.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, when you're a child actor, you have a really bad role. You have, like, a role that, like, wasn't directed well. Or something. Like, it haunts you.
Yeah.
Like...
If you're famous in a role, like everyone will know you as that.
Yeah, especially when you're a child, like it's hard for certain actors to get past like the child actor phase. Right?
Yeah, you have to come in like a wrecking ball. And
oh boy. That was also another person who has not survived the transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to do something dramatic in order to switch the public's image of you.
Yeah. Well, there's dramatic, and then there's also just like a mess. Like there are child actors who like do it. Like I think a lot of it's also like Hollywood. Hollywood's just terrible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, the parents of those actors matter a lot.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
things
like,
I'm learning about child actors and their parents, it's just really messed up.
Yeah, it is very messed up. Especially like Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has a history of doing really messed up things.
Yeah. Even to this day. So
yeah, even to this day.
They can't stop messing up with kids.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have a kid, probably not a good idea to turn them into a child actor.
If they really want to be a child actor, you have to be like on top of everything.
Do
like,
commercials.
Go with them.
Just stick with commercials.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and that's hard on the parents too, right?
Yeah. It is hard, but like, it keeps them safe.
Yeah. Have a kid just go through theater. Theater's fine. Theater's a good way to start your learn, and they can be an actor when they like grow. Because like it takes a lot of like mentoring. You need to find trustworthy mentors too, right?
Yeah.
Like people who like teach your kid, because a child actor is hard because a child doesn't have as much life experience.
Yeah.
So they're more dependent.
They don't go to school.
Yeah.
Or have interaction with like regular kids.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right, that's our Star Trek talk for this episode.
Yeah.
Probably not going to be the last Star Trek talk.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.